Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Trisha with Insectopia, and we are here looking at another buggy today underneath the microscope. This is a termite elate, and if you are not familiar with the term elate, that just means that it is a reproductive, and when we are speaking about termites and ants, the elates are the winged ones. Alright? Elates can be either male or female, and that's why we call them a reproductive rather than like an almost queen or a king. You know, a lot of times, well, I guess it depends. When I'm referring to elates, I'm generally referring to them before they're mated, and then once like a queen ant is mated, you don't call it an elate anymore, you call it the queen. But that's alright, so that's a little story behind that. So this is a termite elate. Now, what I find interesting about this specimen is how incredibly long the wings are. Now, if we're looking at just the length of the body starts up here close to the head, and it ends... Let me go ahead and grab Terry for you so that you can see this a little bit better. Right here. This is the end of the abdomen. So if we actually get a measurement of this specimen is actually less than 1 centimeter. Oh. Excuse me. It's less than 1 centimeter long. The actual body of this specimen is 0.85 centimeters long. But if we were, I guess I got the hiccups. Ugh. But if we were going to measure the actual wings of this specimen, the wings are actually so long that I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit them in their entirety underneath the microscope. You know what? I can fit it if I go diagonal. Yeah. Alright, so this is, actually, I can fit almost the entire specimen if I go diagonally. Cool. So we have the length of the body, that's 0.85 centimeters. Now I just need to grab the length of the wings, and that is 1.76 centimeters. So the wings are double the length of the body. If I was going to just take that measurement from the front of the head to the back of the wings so that you have an idea of the full length of this specimen, because you can see there's some overlapping, we can't just add those numbers together. The full length of this specimen is approximately 2.03 centimeters, and you know, for human error, you could almost say that, you could almost knock off the last, knock off the last number of that and just call it 2 centimeters long. But that's, those are our measurements and a good lateral view of this specimen here. Deb, you haven't been able to find me? I'm so sorry. I'm glad you found me today. I did take the last 2 weeks off for Christmas and New Year's, but we are back going. So I'm happy to have you here. And we're looking at a termite today. Now, I don't have this termite. Identified, so outside of the fact that it is a termite, so the identification is going to be Isoptera. Now, that is no longer an order, alright? Sorry, my screen's just got wonky. Alright, there we go. Alright. Isoptera is no longer its own order. Termites used to be their own group of insects. But then, And this was probably about a decade ago now, so it is no longer new information, but it still feels new to me. And that is that termites are actually communal cockroaches. All right? They, Isoptera is what we call an infraorder now, and it is Blacktodia, which is the order for cockroaches, is an umbrella term, and then the infraorder Isoptera just says that the termites exist within the order of the cockroaches. So now Blacktodia is cockroaches and termites. We'll be able to actually see some characteristics on this termite that will point us towards the fact that it is a cockroach, including the existence of cerci at the back of the abdomen that we'll see when we flip over the specimen. We won't be able to see it from the top. But that gives us a little bit of background about Isoptera as a name. Now, the other thing is that Isoptera, we can actually break that that infraorder name down into two pieces: Iso and Terra. Oh, right. Iso, like an isosceles triangle, has the same sides of the triangle. Iso means same. All right. And then Ptera, Terra, means wings. So when we look at the length of the wings of a termite, the front wings and the hind wings are the same length. That's very different than most insects, because most insects that have four wings, the hind wings, well, let's say, in bees and wasps, and a lot of true bugs, the hind wings tend to be significantly shorter than the front wings. But then in things like beetles, because the hind wings fold underneath the elytra, the hind wings are larger than the front wings. Not very many of them have exactly the same length, and that is going to be one of the differences that'll help you identify an ant versus a termite. Because an ant is going to have shorter hind wings, and termites have long hind wings. Now, some people might say, but hey, wait a minute. I want to know if this insect is an ant or a termite, and it doesn't have wings. Now, for that, we look at the antenna. I overexposed my image for class previously, so I'm going to fix that real quick. There we are. Okay, so we're looking at the antenna of this termite. Hello, Susan. Oh, look, now Susan and Deb are both here. That's very for that. My computer just blue screened and just completely turned off. So, can I get a comment in the chat just to say, hey, we can hear you and everything is okay again? Now, I think I was cut off right about when I was trying to describe the differences between a termite and an ant, especially if you are trying to determine if you're looking at a termite or an ant that you have found in your home. And there is an easy way to tell just by looking at the antenna. Now, ants are going to have a different kind of antenna. They have what we call geniculate antenna. So an ant antenna is going to look a little bit like this. It's going to have a very long scape. That first segment is really long. And then the pedicel is pretty short. And then the remainder, the remainder of the segments, they're fairly short and they're kind of wiggly. Now, We call this a geniculate antenna because it's kind of like an elbow. So you can see it's an elbowed antenna or geniculate antenna. This is what you're going to see with an ant. Now with a termite, you can see that that is very different. That first segment of the antenna, if we look right about here, right here at the base, that first segment of the antenna is not very, very long. In fact, if I was to go and zoom in on the antenna and look at some of those individual segments, especially where they're running this way, you'll see that in termite antenna, their antennae are as long as they are wide. Sometimes people will call this a beaded antenna, meaning that the antenna almost looks like a string of pearls, right? Little circles that are all connected to one another. The scientific term for this, when all of the segments of the antenna are as long as they are wide, sometimes they're circles, sometimes they're squares, we call this maniliform antenna, a maniliform antenna. So, that is going to be how you can tell the difference between a termite and an ant just by looking at it, even if it doesn't have wings. All right, we tell by the antenna. Very good, very good. So that gives us background on the name, a little bit about where they get the name Isoptera, and the question that I always receive, which is the difference between termites and ants. The other funny thing that I think about, we're going to start sketching this guy, but I'm just going to go ahead and write termite Isoptera. Okay. The other thing that I think is kind of funny about termites is a lot of times when people think about termites and they think about ants, they think, yes, they both have colonies, but then also something that, but also they think that they might have very similar life cycles because their colonies are so similar, but they have very different life cycles. Ants are holometabolists, meaning they have an egg, a larva, a pupa, and an adult. And in ants, the adult workers have to take care of the larva because they don't have legs, they can't move around, they mouth feed them and they carry them around with them. In termites, that is not the case. Termites are hemimetabolists, meaning that they have egg, nymph, adult. And the only adults in the termite colony are the ones with wings. So when you see a large colony of termites, all the little white ones, all of those little white termites, they're not even adults. They're nymphs. And a good portion of a termite colony will not become an adult, or it will take a long, long time to become an adult because they're spending their time as workers as nymphs. Yes, Susan, exactly. Isoptera means same wings. We actually have that right here written. You may have come just after we described that. And that's because they have 4 wings that are all the equal length. Their hind wings are just as long as their front wings. And we did grab some measurements here if you want to write them down. The body length is less than a centimeter, 0.85. The wings are 1.76 centimeters, and if we're measuring from the front of the head to the back of the wings, we get just over 2 centimeters. Alright, for this head here, keep in mind that you're going to need a lot of space for the wings, but the body is going to be kind of short up here in the top. I'm going to... Yeah, I must have said that in the first 10 minutes. You're right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start our kind of far away sketch here. And instead of starting with a D-shaped head, this head is a little bit longer, so I'm going to go ahead and give myself two parentheses, a parenthesis on the left and a parenthesis on the right, and then I'm just going to kind of round off these corners a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to round off this top too. So now we've got a little bit of a sketch of the head. So do termite nymphs have hard exoskeletons like the adults, or are they softer and smooshier? The nymphs are smooshier than the adults. The very, very white, very soft, immature nymphs are smooshier. And there is a scientific way of saying that. I actually had this conversation with some students today. When we have something that's like a very hard exoskeleton, for instance, like that really hard head capsule on the termite elate, we would call that sclerotized. Sclerotizing is a process in which the exoskeleton hardens and darkens. And when you have a hard region of the exoskeleton, you'll say that it is sclerotized. So like beetle grub head capsules are sclerotized, but their bodies are soft and smooshy. Now, we have a word to say that too. So if you're going to look at, say, oh man, it's not hard, but it's really soft and smooshy, we would call that unsclerotized. Even though it's still an exoskeleton, we just say that there's sclerotized regions that are hard and unsclerotized regions that are soft. And I would say that the termite nymphs are primarily unsclerotized, especially in their bodies, but they're still going to need a hard head capsule, right? Even insects that are primarily unsclerotized, like caterpillars, they still need a really a hard head capsule because that's where their mandibles are, that's where their compound eyes are, and those features require strength. You can't have a soft head. You just can't. So a connection with the word sclerite being the hard plates that are sclerotized. Yes! Which is funny because I hadn't actually, I don't know if I'd ever thought about it that way. Like I've always just kept them separately, which is why I've never described that way. I love it. And sclerotization is the process of sclerotizing. Like a beetle, when a beetle emerges out of its pupa, it's going to be very soft. We would say it's unsclerotized, and then it goes through the process of sclerotization, where it goes from being a really, really soft beetle to a hard, dark beetle. And it's not only insects. Anything with an exoskeleton sclerotizes. So a tarantula, too, will go through that same process. So that's why when caterpillars molt, their face mask comes off in one hard piece. Yes, exactly! The head, and we actually call it a head capsule. So let's also, we'll get to drawing in a minute. We're talking about cool bug stuff. We wanted, you mentioned the head capsule. So, if we think about an exoskeleton, a really hard sclerotized exoskeleton, it's not going to budge. It actually needs it needs joints so that it can move, because it is so tough, it's like a suit of armor. Soft exoskeleton, unsclerotized exoskeleton can expand. It can grow, kind of like a balloon. All right? So when you have a caterpillar, you'll notice that as a caterpillar is eating, if you've ever raised a caterpillar, I think a couple of you out there regularly raise caterpillars. If you watch a caterpillar, it's going to, over the course of time, it's eating, and it will grow while it's eating before it sheds its exoskeleton, right? Not very many, if you've got a hard exoskeleton, you can't grow. But if you've got a soft exoskeleton, you can get plump. You can expand those regions. And then eventually you get so full that you do need to shed the whole exoskeleton and get a new one for the next size. That's also why when we are trying to identify what instar or how many times something like a caterpillar or a beetle grub has molted, instead of using body length or instead of using weight, we use diameter of the head capsule, because the head capsules will always be generally within the same size, whereas the body is very, very different whether it's in the beginning of the instar or the end of the instar. Like softshell crab, it's just a crab that you eat just after molting, isn't it? Honestly, I'm not sure. If anyone can confirm that, I would be interested in knowing. All right. So that's exoskeletons and sclerotization in general. All right, this is the head of this termite here. We're going to go ahead and continue sketching. I'm looking at the pronotum, which is the top of the first section of the thorax here. I'm going to throw that right about here, straight line across. And admittedly, we are pretty far zoomed out, and we're going to get zoomed in closer, but what I'm seeing is kind of a box on the top, but then a point or a triangle on the bottom. Make sure that you keep your insect symmetrical. Oh, right. We've got the pronotum. This is also going to be where the wings are connected, because the front and hind wings, the front wings are connected to the first segment of the thorax, and the hind wings are connected to the second. So, that is where the wings are connected, right here on the edges of this pronotum. And these wings are going to come out jagged pretty sharp first, and then I do believe these are the kinds of wings that swoop. Like this, they come out from here, and then they go out to the other side, so that they're kind of overlapping one another. And for the length of these wings, I am probably going to be editing that during my sketching process, but my guess is if my body was going to go right around, I'm going to estimate that my termite's body is going to end right around here, so I'm just going to give myself a little U. That looks about right. The body is 0.85, and then the wings are double this length. So if I start here and I go 1, boink, 2, boink, I left just enough room. The wings are going to, in theory, reach all the way to the bottom of my paper. And that is going to give us the length of, that's going to give us the length of our termite. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with this as a starting sketch before we zoom in. So let's go ahead and do that and check out some of the characteristics of the head of our termite. The exoskeleton gets pretty bulgy and overstuffed before it molts, then the new instar is pretty wrinkly since the new skin is bigger and needs to be filled up with food. Cool! Thank you! I wonder if they use the word, okay, so here's another fun word since we're talking about exoskeletons. There is this word called teneral. A teneral adult insect is going to be an adult insect that has just emerged out of its pupa, but has not fully sclerotized. We call this the teneral state, black, and so you can visually see when they're still soft because they'll be white and then they'll be kind of like a beigey color and then they turn brown and then they get this brick red color and then they become black. And while they're in this like span of colors that they're going through darkening, that's when they're a teneral. Let's look at this head. A termite before. This might be the first termite I've drawn. Okay, so we're way up here in the front of the head. One of the first things that I like to do is add the compound eyes. I feel like those kind of make the insect for me. I am going, notice that the eyes kind of bulge out away from the head just a little bit. So I'm going to preemptively erase a spot on my head for the compound eyes. Might have to go a little higher. There we go. So that I don't have to erase the light line after I draw this. Because these eyes, where they are bulging away from the head, they are not very large. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the line here, and I'm going to make myself a left parenthesis on the inside that's pretty narrow, and then I'm going to try and make it symmetrical on both sides, and then just give them just let them bulge out just a little bit. Alright, so those are our compound eyes. Now, with I almost say that they're almost a little too far forward now. Man, I'm going to back them up a little bit. Okay. Alright. Sorry, I want to make sure that they're even. Ah! Alright, so, you know, sometimes, even though I want to make them right the first time, it takes a couple of extra times to try. I tip my hats to those of you who sketch in pen all the time. Alright. So that looks like the approximate correct size for that. The eyes do seem comparatively smaller than an ant's eyes. Yeah, that's possible. But also, ants don't have really big eyes either. Ants kind of have small eyes too, though. Oh, right. The bottom of the head almost, it's like a rounded square. There are those little corners before it comes down and gets narrow towards the pronotum. So I'm just going to make sure that I add those kind of rounded edges to the bottom here. Above the compound eye, nice and straight up into those manila-form antenna. Let me go ahead and give you that name again. Ooh, that's Dorm. So we've got these manila-form antenna. That means that the segments of the antenna are as long as they are wide, kind of like a string of beads or a string of cubes. The first segment is a little bit longer than everybody else, but not incredibly. I'm going to give the first segment on each side and then continue with the head. I just want to get the placement for the antenna. So that's going to be right about here and then right about here. And now all I have to do is finish up the front of this head. there is almost like a little plateau or a little table. We're gonna go ahead and flatten that top off and round it down. Ah! I think my brain is tired. Doesn't want to draw straight lines. That's okay. So we've got that taken care of. So that's going to be essentially the end of the head, but then moving forward, you have things like the clypeus. Well, clypeus, I guess, is probably part of the head. But you've got the clypeus, and then the labrum, and then those palps. So moving forward after this suture here is going to be bits of the mouth parts. Mouth part bits. Now, when I look at insects, I don't always know what exactly I am looking at. I will admit, sometimes I see things that I go, I wonder what's happening there. And on this termite, I have that about this. This seems to be, this light piece here is very thin, and it comes off of the shelf there. So let's say that this is this shelf here. I almost wanted to say when we were a little zoomed out that that was the clypeus, but it might have a different purpose. We're going to sketch it in though. So right here, kind of a little smaller plateau on top. And then above that, you have the labrum. That's going to be the upper lip. I know that some of you like to label, so I'm going to continue to write these names in here. Labrum is up here. It's that nice big roundy one. Alright, so we've got that cute little labrum up there. And then we have palps. I am going to take an educated guess and say that these are maxillary palps. Insects have maxillary or labial palps, and maxillary and labial palps. The maxillary ones tend to be up higher because they're connected to the maxilla, and the labial palps tend to be down here. They also tend to be kind of short. They're connected to the bottom lip, the labium. All right. It appears that the maxillary palps are 3 segmented, so we're going to go 1 segment coming up, a second segment kind of moving forward, and then a third segment coming in towards the center. Here we are. So we've got some mouth parts there. I love how shiny the head capsule of this termite is. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to zoom out and we're going to see the antenna. Now, while I'm drawing the antenna, I want to talk about digestion. Because termites have an amazing digestive system. Alright, as you know, termites eat wood. Termites eat wood, and wood doesn't generally, especially like wood in a house, it doesn't have a whole lot of like energy in it. It's really, really difficult to break down wood. It's difficult to gain energy from wood and all of these things. Termites have special microsymbionts in their stomachs to help them break down and digest wood, but also they can do it incredibly efficiently. The termite stomach is the most efficient machine that we know of. Efficiency can never be 100% because you always lose energy and you lose power to things like heat and light and friction and these kinds of things. You're losing energy to. But termite stomachs have like a 98 or 99% efficient stomach in digesting the cellulose in the wood, which is kind of cool. All right, so I'm going to get a quick estimate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, it's possible I missed or added some, but in a quick count, I counted 25 segments on these maniliform antenna. These are my antenna words that I always type up. Now we've got the scape, that's our first segment. The pedestal is going to be the next one. And then it looks like we've got 24 segments on the flagellum. Make sure that these are nice and round. There is a region of the antenna that almost looks like the segments are more cups than spheres. It might just be, though, the way that the antenna is folded and the way that the antenna is moving. And yes, there are, we will zoom in even further on the antenna if you'd like. There are little itty bitty hairs on the antenna that make them really super cute. Well, my antenna got a little bit wiggly. I tried to make it like smoothly wiggle, but it kind of zigzagged a little bit. But honestly, that is a position that the antenna can go in because these antennae are so small that, or the segments are so small that that the antennae are incredibly flexible. Let's go ahead and zoom in on these hairs so that you can see them. There is even more than one hair on every single segment, and these hairs are not just on one and the other side. They circle the antenna. I was hoping to find focus just a little bit. I think I blew past it. Alright, I think that's going to be as it's not going to get super clear because it's so small, but that's where we're at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Alright, 24 segments of the flagellum. There we go. We've got antenna on the termite, and I don't know. I kind of like that the antennae are all wonky. Alright. I am not going to spend the time to put all of the little hairs on the antenna. I want to get back to looking at the body. But if you would like to, you can go ahead. We got a good view of them. Oh, what happened? There we are. Okay, so now we have a pretty good view of the pronotum of this termite here. And funny enough, I thought that it was pointed, but very round. So the top here isn't completely straight. It does kind of U a little bit to the shape of the head. So I'm just going to darken that a little bit. I'm also going to make sure that the front edges of the pronotum are not as sharp as I had them, just kind of dulling that out a little bit. But I am pretty happy with the size of the pronotum, so I'm just going to go ahead and sketch that one out, but then make this U at the bottom. Also, the center of the pronotum here has a, I wouldn't say that this is a suture. I would say that it is probably a sulcus. It's probably a fold in the exoskeleton. It's not two separate plates. Okay. Now, I thought that the wings were over top of the body, but check this out. This is the pronotum here. This right here is the connection to the wing, and the front wing, when it starts, it comes out this way. It comes out on the sides of the body. So if we were going to sketch that on this, I had no idea. I think that's kind of, it's weird to me that it does that. I'm gonna kind of start my wings off kind of double lined on the very edges of the body, because then we have the mesonotum, which is going to be the second segment of the thorax on the top. That looks right about here, and comes down, and it's this secondary U here. It also does get a little bit wider than the pronotum, so I'm just going to give myself a little erase. Okay. So here, gonna start here and go out and then come in, and I'm gonna make myself kind of a big wide U shape here. Make sure that it does come out a little bit, which is why those front wings had to get pushed out a little. And that sulcus continues down the center of the mesonotum too. Now, something about sulci, spelled this way, S-U-L-C-I, is the plural of sulcus. Which is a fold in the exoskeleton. Sometimes sulci, that when you see them like this on the top of the thorax, they are a thin spot that the exoskeleton cracks open from. But normally you see those on the nymphs. I think it's cool that you've got those dark lines on the top here. They're probably just decorative in reality. Okay, now that we've got that mesonotum, this is also where the wings are connecting. The hind pair of wings connect to the second segment. And the hind wings do look like they come over the body. So starting right around here, this is where, so we've got the front wing. That's coming this way. And I'm gonna push this one on the right out even a little bit more. And then the second pair of wings are coming in from here. And they do come to the center. You also have a little triangle here that is the top of the third segment of the thorax that is only barely visible when where the wings touch one another. Okay. So that's where the wings touch. What is the advantage of that fold? Well, exoskeleton folds will have a couple of purposes. I'm not sure what the advantage of this one specifically is. Structural stability. Insects will have certain folds in their exoskeleton. A lot of times you'll see are found more on the head to structurally stabilize the capsule. They also can be a soft place to break when the insect is growing. I wonder if it's leftover. Kind of like the nymphs needed a sulcus there so that they could shed their exoskeleton, but then when it became an adult, it just didn't go away and they have one remaining, kind of like we have belly buttons. Like cardboard. Yeah, like that. Alright, now, here's the thing about the termite wings. They're long. So, once we get to, I really want this to be a little bit more in focus. Okay. So once we get to this point, this termite actually has the right wings on top of the left wings. I'm not sure if that is all termites or just this termite, but if it has it that way, I'm going to draw it that way. So this start of the hind wing here crosses over. And these wings, they are long and parallel to themselves. Alright, so it's not like the insect isn't going to get really wide. It's also not going to get really narrow. The only reason you're seeing a little fold over here is because one of the wings got folded when I was pinning it, and it dried that way. But normally they sit perfectly over top of one another. So I'm going to go ahead and just darken myself this nice long U shape here. And those are the wings. Now, because the wings are all the exact same size, you can just leave it like this on the bottom. Although you will see termites where their wings are kind of flared a little bit. You'll see multiple bases. So if this is the hind wing, this is where the hind wing starts. This is where the hind wing starts. Alright, so I gave myself a separation from where the hind wing starts from where the front wing starts. And so now I can take, if I want, and just widen this front wing and splay out the wing just a little bit on both sides. And that is going to make it look a lot more like a termite too. So that I'm pretty happy with. So those hind wings that fold over and the front wings that are right there, Yeah! Cool. Now, the body of the termite itself is underneath the wings, and you can see from, when we're seeing it from above, you're not going to be able to see a lot of characteristics there. So admittedly, for me, I'm just going to take that space where the abdomen would be, and I'm just going to darken it up and call it a day here for a dorsal view. We will be turning the termite over to see the ventral view because there are a couple of other cool things I want to show you about it. Alright, but that gives us a body and some wings. Now all we need are legs. Let me see. Susan asks, it might make those segments more flexible in that area so that it can bend a little without cracking. I guess possibly, but normally I don't think that sulci are generally made for flexing. If they wanted to flex there, they would have a little bit of integument, which is like that soft stuff in between the exoskeleton plates. Anything is possible, though. I wonder how they stack the 4 wings. Do they alternate left and right, or both left and then both right? Are they consistent every time? Fabulous question. Let's go and look at the, let's go and look. I have never wondered that. Okay. I'm collecting data for a moment. Give me a second while I look at this from multiple perspectives. Insects teach me all the time. So, the wings alternate, and when we were looking at it from the top, I thought that the front wings kind of were along the sides, but the front wings are the top ones. So this front wing comes down past the mesonotum and then crosses over. That's the front wing. And then the hind wing starts here, and this outside one is actually the hind wing. Thank you for asking. I probably wouldn't have looked at it that way. And this specimen, I'm not sure if they're always the same, but this specimen stacks its wings right, front, left, front, right. So front, hind. So it stacks it the front right, front left, hind, right, hind, left. So this is how this termite is stacking. I would assume that it is always alternating, but that some termites may put the right on the top, and some termites may put the left on the top. I do have more termite specimens, but I don't think that they're not within reach. when people ask me questions. It gives me the ability to go on mini rants and learn something. So I'm trying to see the front leg here because the front leg is going to be the next thing that we are adding to our sketches. There is something wonky happening with the tarsal segments. So we'll have to zoom in. We'll have to use the microscope to zoom in a little bit once we get there. That's a good question, Susan, as to whether or not like true bugs stack there, because I don't know if it matters if the left is on top or if the right is on top. All right. Right here, this is our pronotum, first segment of the thorax. That's where our front leg is going to be connected. For those of you who like the labels, femur, tibia, tarsi, these are our leg parts. We can actually see from this angle the coxa and the trochanter, but from a dorsal perspective, we're not going to be able to see it, so that's okay. We're not going to draw them. The legs are connected to the back side of this segment here, and the femur looks fairly round. Termites do not have long legs because their body is actually pretty short. So we've got this front leg up here. That's that femur, or we would call the profemur. And then the tibia is nice and narrow and reaches approximately, I would say just a little bit, not much, past the compound eye there. There are two tibial spines at the end of the tibia, one on each side. Let's go zoom in so we can see them. That's why I've been having problems today. The lens was halfway closed, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Okay. So that's where we're gonna leave it. The tarsal segments on this termite are a little wonky. They almost look like stacking cups. And to me, it appears there's three of them. 1, 2, 3 stacked really close, and then this fourth one is the long one. Yeah, that's what I see from my perspective. If I was going through a key and the key told me that there were 5 tarsal segments and not 4, I would say, yeah, I totally see an additional cup segment right there. But I really only see 3. 3, and then a raindrop. Let's do it. So these first 3 segments are nice and short. They're cup-like, bowl-like, so they're going to have a really strong concave angle at the ends of them so that the next one can kind of stack into it. 1, 2, 3. And then afterwards, there's that raindrop segment with the tarsal claws, and that gives us a cute little leg here. If I was to draw this again, I would probably angle the tarsal segments out a little bit, but reaching forward is okay. Let's go look at the middle leg. I see that same tarsal formula with kind of 3 cup-like tarsal segments and then a raindrop segment at the end. Still 2 tibial spines. This leg is not all in one plane of focus. I think that I could probably get close though if I did it this way. Okay. That's as best as we're going to be able to get this leg in focus all at one time. This is the middle leg. It's connected right around here. So right at the end of that mesonotum, the middle leg is going to be kind of coming in a downward direction. That femur is still wide on the edges, kind of like that front leg. I'm going to make it just a little bit longer so that it's about the same length as that front legs. The tibia is going to come down in this direction. The tibia does also have, not happy with that. The tibia isn't flared like a lot of tibia are. This one is fairly even all the way down. 2 tibial spines and then those tarsal segments. So bowl number 1, bowl number 2, bowl number 3, and then that raindrop segment with the claws. Kind of like that. Then we can draw the hind leg. I believe that all of the legs are very, very similar. Oh, but you know what? The hind leg is a little longer. So something that you'll notice about this poor termite is that when it died, its abdomen completely collapsed on itself. So this termite's exoskeleton was not like super, super strong either. Honestly, that's why some insects have to be left in alcohol and some of them can be pinned. It has to do with the strength of their exoskeleton. Things like caterpillars and beetle grubs have to be killed in a special chemical and then stored in ethanol, because if you tried to pin them, their bodies just shrivel up and then you lose the characteristics to identify them. Hind leg is long. It connects right around here, but it's going to be coming out right about here. We're not going to be able to see much of the femur past where the legs are. Keep in mind that a lot of that femur is underneath the body. But then the tibia looks like it's going to stretch right about there, approximately just short just a little bit short of the end of the abdomen here. And the hind leg still has those 3 bowls and then the raindrop. So 1, 2, 3, and then the raindrop segment. And then with the tarsal claws, we're going to get approximately just in line with the abdomen or a little bit earlier. And that is a pretty adorable termite. To kind of add a couple of finalizing touches on this, I might even come through and add kind of longer lines on the wings just to make it kind of look like there's venation in them. The wing venation on a termite, the veins are going to be really, really long. There's not a lot of netting or crossing. Show you what I'm talking about. To me, the wings almost look like they have like they're fingerprint-esque. The veins are long and thin and kind of lengthwise with the wings. There are some crossovers, obviously, just not very many. Let's turn this termite upside down. Oh no! Whoops. The termite just lost one of its legs. That's what I get for teaching with the specimens. Maybe I'll glue it back on after class. So when you look at a termite from the underside, to me it's reminiscent of a cockroach. Well, it is a roach, so now we know why. But if we look right here at the very, very end of the abdomen, one of the things that orthopteroids have, or insects that are like distant cousins of grasshoppers, crickets, and katydids, is they all have cerci. Which is a pluralized form of circus. This guy here and that guy there. They almost look like two little tails. They look like two little filaments. They are multi-segmented. They do have little hairs on them. And they are, some cerci are no longer used anymore in certain insects. But I do believe termites use their cerci for sensory purposes. They're now they're chemosensors, or they have the ability to sense chemicals in the substrate that they're digging in. They have little chemosensors. My phone is out of battery, so I'll watch it on the TV, but I won't be able to send you messages. Aw, thank you, Deb. And no, it wasn't even a crane fly. I don't know exactly what happened because I didn't even touch the specimen. The leg just fell off. But I still have the leg, so I might be able to glue it back on. Honestly, I am closing in on the end of my sketch here. Unless we have any questions about the termite or any other body parts that you'd really like to see, this is what the underside of the head looks like. And so now you can see both pairs of palps. And I was correct in that these are the maxillary palps up here, nice and long. The labial palps are right here, this little short segment here and this little one there. Those are labial palps. There's the labrum. No, I personally cannot tell if this is a male or a female. I do know that the male or female can be determined by looking at the genitalia. But I don't know what I would be looking at. Although, may I guess male? This right here looks like a short stabby bit. And I don't think that termites have ovipositors. So I don't think that that's an egg-laying device. And do adults have mating flights like ants? Do mated females fly off to found a new colony or take over the existing one? Yes, they do have mating flights. Just like ants, they'll come out in large swarms. They will mate. And whether or not they are going to fly off and found a new colony versus taking over an existing one would be dependent on whether or not the colony can support multiple queens. Sometimes there are, not all species of termites, but there are some species of termites that have multiple queens. So if there can be multiple queens, sometimes the queens will stay home. But most of the time I would assume that they're going to be flying to a new location. Also, termite queens are one of the longest lived insects on the planet. So once they start laying their eggs, they kind of swell to almost the size of a hot dog. They're crazy. They get ginormous. And it's a really good example of when we talk about, like, you don't need to shed your exoskeleton to grow. They have these folds in the integument that help their abdomen just expand incredibly long. And there is the queen termites are gonna live an average of like 30 to 50 years, but some have been found to live for over 100. So, or for about 100, not over. So there are some termite queens that we know have lived a very, very long time. Now, peak egg laying is only about 10 to 12 years. So they'll kind of start laying eggs slow, they'll ramp up, they'll be like producing eggs massively for about a decade, and then it'll start to pitter off again. And I believe when it starts to like pitter off like that, that's when, you might have multiple queens hanging out. I also have a video about termite defensive mechanisms on the YouTube channel. Let me drop a link to that because it's fun. I actually have multiple videos on termites. So this is a video. I'm going to drop them in the chat. This is a video on the magnetic termites. Those are termites that live in Australia and set up large, almost like headstone-esque colonies. And then this video here is about termites that use a chemical to self-destruct, but they kind of like they're like little termite. They self-destruct and kill invaders. Alrighty, so I think we are closing in on the end. Any more questions, comments, concerns, things that you are curious about? I think that there's a longer lag than normal. So if I start my outro and you ask a question, I will go ahead and answer it. I'll just stop. That's fine. Alrighty, so I want to say thank you for hanging out with me. Happy 2025! I'm really excited to be starting off the brand new year. Getting all of my scheduling stuff taken care of. I will be traveling to 27 cities this year. I will be in Cincinnati, Ohio, next weekend, and then I have like 3 or 4 weekends in a row in February that I'm traveling. There is a possibility that if I get too tired from travel, Thursday night live streams I might have to cancel a couple of them just for, so that I can sleep. Just a little bit. But I'm hoping to keep as many of them up as possible. Really, really excited for the traveling upcoming. I have a couple of exciting things coming down the works, but I don't want to talk about them because I don't want to jinx that they're happening. Alright? So I'll let you know when everything is finalized. Up there is a reminder that I teach classes on OutSchool. They're for students ages 5 to 8, 9 to 12. I am within a week or two of finalizing schedules for teaching adult Zoom classes that people will be able to sign up for. So I'm excited about that. Over here, I've got a reminder to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. All of you who are chit-chatting have, and I appreciate that, but we had a lot of viewers today to learn about termites, so if you would like a notification when I'm going live, make sure that you hit the subscribe and the little notification bell. Down there is just a link to PayPal. It's just if you would like to donate to Insectopia, help me to continue to teach, to continue to grow my collection, and to continue to travel. That's always helpful. This is what I do full time. Down here is my email address, trisha@theinsectopia.com. And social media, Facebook and Instagram, I am at Insectopia2015. Somebody stole my name, so I added my established year onto them. But we've got my name on YouTube, which I love. Alright, so I think that is everything. Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you so much, Deb, for hanging out with me today. Oh, I didn't ask. Is there an insect you'd really like to draw next week, or would you like me to surprise you? Because I do like to have them planned at least 1 week in advance. So if there is an insect that you would really, really like to learn about, you can go ahead and drop it in the chat, and I'll just plan it for next week. And within the next couple of days, I should have my entire travel schedule for 2025 planned. I'm hoping to get it posted onto my Facebook and my Instagram just so that people who follow me know where to find me. Oh, yes, and Jared, right, Jared was up here chit-chatting too. Oh, very good, very good. I'm just going to hang out here for another moment just to make sure that the live stream catches up to my voice and see if anybody has an insect that they would like to draw. And in the meantime, I am going to glue this termite's leg back on. Yeah, I get that. So Susan says usually she requests an insect that she's seen recently, but there aren't any bugs out. You know what we could do? We could do a stonefly. It is not a winter stonefly, but right now, the beginning of January is when the winter stoneflies emerge in Michigan. So it could be a kind of fun thing to talk about, and then we could draw a stonefly together. Stoneflies have actually very similar wings to termites in that their wings sit flat over top of their body, but the hind wings are shorter than the front wings. Or something from Arizona. Good idea. I love the Arizona bugs. I can definitely pick one of those fun ones. Queen butterflies. Marine blues and western pygmy blues. That's cool. I wish I was in a place that I could find bugs year-round, not just bugs in the warm times. I have students in Hawaii, and they're always showing me the bugs that they're finding outside. They can find bugs year-round. I just think that that's so cool. Alright, we're starting to crash, so I hope that everybody has a fabulous rest of your week. I look forward to surprising you with an insect from the Sky Islands or a stonefly, depending on whatever I find in my collection that looks fun. I hope that you all have a fabulous rest of your week, and stay buggy. Bye.